Hello and welcome to the episode of the Bubbs on Sports podcast. Today is Thursday, August 31st. Hope everyone's having a good day so far and a good rest of their day yesterday. We've got a lot to get into here today on a Thursday program, the final day of August, and we are now officially 1 week away from the start of the 2023 NFL season. Lions, Chiefs, in Kansas City a week from today on Thursday Night Football will open things up. And then we are a little less than 2 weeks away from the start of the first Sunday in the NFL, and then a little less than 2 weeks away from the Jets-Bills on Monday Night Football. So a lot of excitement. The excitement continues to grow. This is always one of the most exciting times of the year for a sports fan. You've got, obviously, hockey and basketball starting up in a little bit. You've got football starting up here in a week. You've got baseball and the playoffs, postseason baseball beginning. I always say we're 1 month away from the greatest month in all of sports, and that is October, where all four of the major sports are going on. You've got so much to talk about, so much to watch during the week, on the weekend, college football, a lot going on this weekend. The first full weekend of college football, got some games on tonight. So a lot to look forward to this upcoming weekend and the weeks ahead of us as we close out the month of August and enter into September beginning on tomorrow. So today we will continue to my division predictions throughout the NFL. Yesterday I did the AFC North. Today we're going to bounce back into the NFC and do the NFC North today. The first time in a very long time we're going to be talking about the NFC North without Aaron Rodgers. The first time actually we're ever talking about the NFC North without Aaron Rodgers on the show. So we'll get into that to open up today's podcast. Then we'll get into the Yankees calling up two prospects beginning on Friday. As we heard yesterday that they are set to call up Jason Dominguez and Austin Wells. We'll get into that. We'll break down those two moves, break down what they bring to the table. And the Yankees have found a way to win 3 straight games. And last night, the Yankees found a way to win a series. Gleyber Torres, Stanton were able to go back-to-back. They were able to get the win 6-2. They'll close out the series today against the Tigers, looking for a 4-game sweep. The Mets salvaged the final game of a 3-game set against Dane Dunning and the Texas Rangers yesterday with a 6-5 win in extra innings, a 10-inning victory for the Mets. So they will have a day off today before they host the Seattle Mariners this upcoming weekend. So we'll get you set for the Yankee game this afternoon, and the Mets have a day off. We'll get to that later on today. But we'll start today with our NFL standings prediction. So on Monday, again, for those of you who might just be tuning in and you haven't checked out the recent videos, definitely go check that out. Appreciate all the support. So Monday we did the AFC East. Tuesday we did the NFC East. Yesterday we did the AFC North. Today we're doing the NFC North. Tomorrow we're doing the AFC South. And then on Monday we'll do the NFC South. Wednesday we'll do the AFC West. And then we'll close things out on Tuesday, we'll do the AFC West, and on a Wednesday, we'll close things out doing the NFC West, and it will lead you right up until Thursday, which is the first game of the NFL season, Lions-Chiefs. So today we're going to take a look at the NFC North, and the NFC North looks a little bit different this season. The way we see it playing out, the way you're projecting it, the way we're predicting it. Many people are predicting an interesting finish in the NFC North this year, given that Aaron Rodgers is no longer in a division, and it is the first time since Rodgers got drafted that he won't be in a division after spending his entire career up to this point in Green Bay, now obviously with the New York Jets. So last year, the NFC North played out like this. The Vikings finished in first with a 13-4 record. The Lions finished in second with a 9-8 record. Packers finished in third with an 8-9 record, and the Bears finished in dead last with a 3-14 record. And that 3-14 record also included a 10-game win streak after starting out 3-4. They lost 10 straight after that. So the NFC North last year, you went into the season and many thought Packers, Lions, Vikings would all compete for the playoffs. I think a lot of people, including myself, thought the Lions were a year away from legitimately maybe making some noise and being a real legitimate case for the playoffs. They were in the conversation last year, just missed out in the postseason by the last week of the season when Seattle beat the Rams. Lions ended up beating Green Bay on Sunday Night Football, which was Rodgers' last game in Green Bay. And you go into the season a lot to love about the Lions. But last season in the NFC North, in what was a weak NFC, there was only one team to come out of the division in the postseason. That was the Minnesota Vikings, and they lost in the wild card round. So the NFC North's in an interesting spot because you don't have Aaron Rodgers. I don't think anybody's incredibly in love with the Vikings in terms of what Kirk Cousins does in big moments, big games, primetime games. We know Kirk Cousins isn't very good. And you look at the defense, and you feel as if the defense despite potentially improving, you still feel as if the defense isn't good enough to go out and win and go deep into the postseason. So this is an interesting division because you look at the NFC South, who we'll get to, the NFC West, who we'll get to. We obviously already discussed the NFC East. There's a lot of, the NFC's weak, and you can make a case, actually, it's a weird division because you can make a case for at least 3 of these 4 teams to compete potentially for a playoff spot or at least go into December playing meaningful games. Although, you look at this division, and outside of the one team that I think, you don't really know if any of these teams is really capable of actually making a postseason run and getting into the postseason, potentially even making a run outside of the team that I think will do it. But even a team like the Vikings, you question, okay, is Kirk Cousins good enough to get to that next level to go out and win a postseason game, make a deep run? Is the defense good enough? Because that was the issue last year against the Giants in the wildcard round. So let's break it down. Vikings, again, 13-4 last year, won a division. Lions, despite a very good year, missed the playoffs. Packers obviously missed the playoffs, and of course, the Bears finishing last with a 3-win season also missed the postseason. But definitely a different look when it comes to the NFC North this year without Aaron Rodgers. So we'll start off, first place, I have the Detroit Lions. You know how I feel about this team? Again, I opened up the show, and I said, I don't really know how to feel about any of these teams outside of Detroit, because I think Detroit has been a team that I've talked about a lot this offseason. I talked about it last year. I talked about right when the season ended. The Lions are a dark horse team, in my opinion, as a team that can make a deep run in the postseason. I'm not saying they're going to go to the Super Bowl. I'm not saying they're going to, win it all. I'm not saying they're going to go 15-2 and be the greatest team, ever. They're not. No. Jared Goff isn't going to roll out of bed and turn into Patrick Mahomes and they're going to go 15-2 and they're going to have the number 1 offense in football and they're going to do all these great things. No, but I do see this team potentially being a dark horse to make a deep playoff run, to get into the postseason and make some noise out of this NFC North that is now wide open without Aaron Rodgers. You look at this team last year, they went 9-8, and there's a lot to like when you look up and down their roster. Obviously, they've got pieces like Jared Goff at quarterback who, again, I think Goff at quarterback, he's been solid for the Lions. He's good. You wonder, I think this is a big year for him. They've got to make you feel like the playoff is the expectation this year for the Lions. But Goff's done a good enough job for them. They've got, they drafted Jahmyr Gibbs. They've got David Montgomery as well. They picked up from the Bears in the backfield. So they've got a nice little 1-2 punch. Amon-Ra St. Brown. I know Jameson Williams is suspended to start the season. You'll see what he does when he comes back. You've also got Marvin Jones Jr. They obviously traded Hawkinson. You love the offensive line where their offensive line's at, where it has pieces like Frank Ragnow, Jonah Jackson, Penei Sewell. I mean, this is a team last year I think a lot of people forget. They were 4th in offense. I mean, they were 4th in overall offense last year. They were 8th in passing offense, 11th in rushing offense. Like they were 5th in scoring offense. This was a top 7 offense last season, and they've only gotten better. And they've added, they've got, Amon-Ra St. Brown another season. You add Jared Goff into another season. Like, you really like where this team's at. And defensively, they're underrated. They've got, last season they took a jump defensively. They were horribly defensively a year ago. Last year they were better. This season, you expect him to make even more of a jump, where they added C.J. Gardner-Johnson in the offseason, who had an excellent season last year for the Eagles, going all the way to the Super Bowl. They've obviously got Aiden Hutchinson, who, if it wasn't for Sauce Gardner, probably takes home Defensive Rookie of the Year. You've got Alex Anzalone, who is a really solid middle linebacker, has had 100-plus tackles last season. I think he had 125 he finished with. Kirby Joseph as well in the secondary. They really bulked up the secondary a little bit. You love Aiden Hutchinson at the edge, who was everything you could have asked for last year as a rookie. Explosiveness, made some really big plays. You expect another big season from him. You expect him to continue to get better. This Lions team, I really like in terms of the depth, in terms of the mix of veteran and some youth talent that they've got. They've got some youth, like Amon-Ra St. Brown, still relatively young. Jahmyr Gibbs is a rookie. But you've also got some veteran like Jared Goff. You've got a Jameson Williams still young as well, but he'll just be suspended. You've got a veteran Marvin Jones Jr. You got a guy that's been in the league a little bit in terms of an Alex Anzalone. You've also got a second-year player in Aiden Hutchinson. There's a good mix. And the biggest thing with this Lions team is I think they're one of the best, most well-coached teams in the NFL. Dan Campbell is phenomenal. These guys will run through a wall. They've got good talent. But I would tell you this, on paper, the Vikings are probably more talented than the Lions. But the difference is the Lions are more well-coached, or the Lions are well-coached, and They play for their, they play very hard for they would run through a wall for Dan Campbell. And we saw that last year. They've gotten better in the offseason, but we saw that last year where that was a team that started out rough. They got on that win streak. They went and finished 9-8. They went into Green Bay final week of the season, beat Green Bay, even though the season was over, even though they realized they were already eliminated. I think that was the biggest eye-popping thing to me. They went into Green Bay last year, beat the Packers, despite knowing that they were eliminated. Not many teams would go ahead and do that. But they play for their coach. They believe in Dan Campbell. And this is a team that doesn't need much talent to go out and win because they believe in the coach and they're very well coached. So I like the Lions finishing in first. My floor for them is 7-10. My ceiling is 13-4. Look, if they catch fire offensively, this was a 9-win team last year, and they've gotten better. So is it crazy to say they can be a 12, 13-win team if the ball bounces their way a couple times? It's possible. Again, that's the ceiling in my opinion. Doesn't mean they're going to go 13-4. I have them going 11-6 and finishing in first. This was people forget, this was a 9-win team a year ago. This team should easily be able to win 2 more games than they won last year and should finish in first because they are the most well-coached team in the division, and they've got the talent to do so, and they've got a good mix of some young guys, some veteran guys. They've got a very good offensive line. You like what this Lions team is doing a lot. You've seen the progression. Year 1 with Dan Campbell to year 2, now year 3. Now it's time to take that big jump. Lions are a dark horse team this year to make a run in the postseason and to make some noise. Lions finishing in first in the NFC North. We move on here to the Minnesota Vikings. Look, the Vikings have got talent all over the field. I know they lost Dalvin Cook, but you've got Alexander Mattison, who showed positives last year, started to take a lot of Cook's carries away from him anyway. You've got the best receiver in football, in my opinion, in Justin Jefferson. You've got KJ Osborne. You've got pieces, Jordan Addison, who's a rookie, spent time with Pitt, spent last year with Caleb Williams and Lincoln Riley at USC. He's explosive, good rookie receiver that's got a lot of potential. This team's loaded. They got TJ Hawkinson, who just a half hour ago, we're hearing that they're giving him a massive contract. I haven't heard the logistics on it yet, but you did see that they're giving him a huge deal, who they actually got from Detroit, a rare in-division trade from Lions to Detroit. Look, this team's loaded with talent. Again, they've got talent all over the field. Defensively, they're not great. They got Danielle Hunter. They got Harrison Smith. You don't love what they do defensively. Their defense last year wasn't very good, especially in the postseason against the Giants. And that's my issue. I don't love their defense. They've got weapons all over the field in the offense. And I actually think, even though they lost Adam Thielen, I think Jordan Addison has a higher seat. Like, Thielen's nearing the tail end of his career. So I actually like the Jordan Addison, KJ Osborne, Justin Jefferson trio rather than Justin Jefferson and Thielen, because you could tell Thielen was clearly running out of gas. Addison's a fresh pair of legs for that receiving core. He's a rookie, and he's got a lot of potential. So I love their weapons. Again, like you talk about in pure talent, like the Vikings have the best receiver in the division. They have potential to have Alexander Mattison has a lot of potential. This will be his first year getting the full amount of carries now with Dalvin Cook obviously on the Jets. So there is potential there, but the biggest issue is the defense, in my opinion, and it's the quarterback. Kirk Cousins is great in the regular season. Once the spotlight's on him, can't win big games. On the road, whether it's a primetime game, Monday Night Football, Thursday night, they've got some primetime games this year, and ultimately in the postseason. And again, when I think it comes down to it, what I think separates the Lions and the Vikings is the Lions are a team well-coached, able to go on the road in big moments and win games. And they showed that last year. Again, going into Green Bay when they realized they were already out. That speaks a lot to me personally. I value that a lot. You don't see that very often where a team goes on the road in a tough environment, beats a division opponent when it doesn't matter. Like, you don't see that a lot. And the Lions are able to do that. The Vikings, to me, it's the coaching. Kevin O'Connell, he's solid coach, showing some positives, but it's the defense and it's the quarterback. I don't know if I can fully trust the Vikings to take this division and go out and make noise in the playoffs and go out and make noise in big spots. And that's my biggest concern. But they've got talent. So I think and this is where I think the Vikings they have a high floor. They have a higher floor than the Lions, in my opinion, because they've proven it. Like, the Vikings are going to be back. I'll tell you right now, I have the Vikings making the playoffs. They're going to be back in the playoffs. I have no doubt about that. They've got the talent. They're too talented not to be in the postseason. But it's just, I don't think they're good enough at quarterback in terms of Kirk Cousins winning the big game late in the year to go out and win a division again when you have a legitimate threat in Detroit. I just don't think they have that in Minnesota. Kirk Cousins is great in these low pressure environments. Once the stakes get a little bit bigger, he's not good. He's not good at all. You look at his primetime record. And I don't love the defense either. I think the Lions have the upper hand at defense over Minnesota. Because I think the Lions have actually improved the defense. Again, it's not the greatest still, but I think you're going to see that jump this year. And they've got some younger pieces. So, again, I think the Vikings have a higher floor than the Lions. I have the Vikings floor at 8-9. It probably realistically could be 9-8. I mean, I don't foresee this Vikings team finishing under 500. The reason I think they have a higher floor than the Lions is because they've already had success. They have a track record with guys like Justin Jefferson in terms of making the playoffs and having success. Like the Lions, this will be the first time in a very long time they actually make noise. So that's why I think they have a higher floor. Their ceiling is 12-5, and I'll go prediction 10-7. I have them finishing 10-7. They're a 10-win team. They've got talent again. I just think when it comes down to it, I think the Lions are more well coached, and I think the Lions are going to be able to win the big game late in the year, potentially a late division matchup. And I think that's going to be ultimately. That's going to be the difference. These two teams meet twice in the last 3 weeks of the season. So they meet week 16 and they meet week 18. I trust the Lions to get those big wins over Kirk Cousins. I do, because Kirk Cousins, you can't trust him in the big spot. And that's what ultimately comes down to it. So Vikings in second, 10-7. Now, this is where things get a little interesting, because if you would have told me, last year that Aaron Rodgers wouldn't be on the Packers, or would be on the Jets, I probably would have thought you were crazy. But here we sit. Rodgers is no longer on the Packers. And you look at the Bears, and they've improved a lot. And the Bears are a team that, in my opinion, when you look back at this offseason, they had a really under-the-radar offseason. I actually like the Bears offseason a lot. They obviously got rid of the number 1 overall pick, gave it to Carolina. Carolina gave him DJ Moore in return, gave Fields a number 1 receiver. I really actually like what the Bears were able to do this offseason, and I really like this Bears roster. I still feel like they're a year away, but they've got Fields, they've got Khalil Herbert. Now without David Montgomery, he'll get a real chance to showcase. Has shown flashes behind David Montgomery, but he'll get a real opportunity to go out there this year and show what he can do as a legitimate number 1, similar to Alexander Madison. They've got DJ Moore, who's a legitimate number 1 now. They have Darnell Mooney at the moment. Potentially they trade him. Chase Claypool, I don't love Chase Claypool, but he's not a bad third option for Fields. And again, potentially they're a year away, in my opinion, from maybe going out and striking another big move next offseason to bring in another big piece. So I think Claypool's good for right now. And Cole Kmet really broke out last season, and I like Kmet a lot. Defensively, Eddie Jackson, Jaquan Brisker, they added Tremaine Edmonds from the Bills, which I think was their biggest. Again, I like their offseason where they added Edmonds on defense, added a linebacker. Tremaine Edmonds, very good seasons with the Bills. He's now with the Bears. Obviously, again, they added DJ Moore in trading their first overall pick. I really did like this. I like this offseason for the Bears a lot. I did. And they realized, hey, we got to see what Fields is all like. We got to surround him with the best talent possible. And they did that. They gave him a number 1 receiver in DJ Moore. Again, he's not an elite number 1. He's not a Justin Jefferson. I don't think he's on the scale either of what a Garrett Wilson can be, or even just in the division. Again, and I think he's a good solid number 1. Again, he's not elite, but he's a solid number 1. It's better than Fields has ever had. I think he's actually has more. I know Fields had Allen Robinson there for a little bit, no longer, of course, but or the Bears had Allen Robinson there for a little bit, no longer. DJ Moore is a younger guy. Has a higher, he's still relatively younger, been in the league for a little bit, but he's not an elite, but he's a solid number 1. He's a really solid number 1 for a guy that's been in the year for 5 years. This is 6th season, so a solid veteran. So they gave him that. Again, Khalil Herbert. You like where the Bears are at. And again, the biggest question is Fields. It's a new offense. There's a lot of new pieces. Good talent-wise. I still think they're a year away from legitimately making the postseason. This next season, potentially this offseason, could this be the year where they strike a big move? I think their floor is 6-11. I think they're a low floor team. Ceiling's decently high. I think it's 11-6. I have their ceiling at 11-6. If this is a team that connects early on in the season, and Fields is, you have to remember too, the Bears last year were 3-4 at one point, and then they lost 10 straight. So, again, you don't really know if you have the coach. You question the coach a little bit because he's got to prove it. You question, again, Fields has got to go out there and legitimately prove it as well. He's shown flashes. He's got to put it together consistently. You gave him a number receiver. There's no excuses. So I like where this Bears team is headed. I think they're on a trajectory like this. I really do. I like their offseason, but I still think they're a year away. So Bears finishing in third, floor 6-11, ceiling 11-6. Prediction, I have them at 8-9. And realistically, I think the Bears are better than the Packers. I'll tell you that. They have more talent than the Packers. They have a better receiving core than the Packers. You can make the argument. They have a more Fields. I'd take Fields right now over Jordan Love because he's giving you more. We have no clue who Jordan Love is going to be. And I like, some of the pieces that they added on defense, specifically Tremaine Edmonds. So Bears 8-9, finishing in third. Now and last is the Green Bay Packers. And you might be thinking to yourself, how are the Packers worse than the Bears? Whatever. I don't trust. Look, we haven't seen anything from Jordan Love. So I could sit here and look. At the end of the day, we could all sit here and predict Jordan Love's going to be this really good quarterback and they're going to go out and win 8-9 games. They're going to be competitive. I just don't see it. I mean, who is Jordan Love going to throw to? Christian Watson, sure, he's good. He's got to develop. But outside of that, Romeo Doubs, Jaden Reed, what's the tight end situation? I know, the offensive line, you got David Bakhtiari, so you feel good about that. You love your running back tandem of Aaron Jones, A.J. Dillon. That's the one constant. You have questions at quarterback. Yeah, I know you got Preston Smith, Rashawn Gary, Jair Alexander, Darnell Savage, Rasul Douglas. You've got a lot of pieces on that defense, specifically in the secondary, headline by Jair Alexander. But who on offense is going to step up and make plays? Because we saw this last year with Aaron Rodgers. They only won 8 games, and with Allen Lazard, they didn't have a number one receiver, and they still don't. Watson might be the number one receiver, but we need to see it first. And you have no clue what in the world Jordan Love is. You have no clue. So I don't know how anybody could possibly be up on this Packers team. I don't. Their number, let's just say Watson's good. Who else do you have? Romeo Doubs. They're not very good at receiver. The tight end situation. You love your running back room is very good. I mean, this is a team that might be the most. This team might run it the most in the NFL. I mean, if Jordan Love stinks, they might have to rely on Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon the entire game, every game. That's the one thing I will say. Their running back room is the reason I probably have them not reaching their floor, because I don't love Jordan Love. We haven't seen anything from him, and I'm not going to sit up here and say, do I think Jordan Love's going to be great? Because I'd be lying to you if I told you I've seen a lot of positive in Jordan Love. I've barely seen what Jordan Love can do. Nobody has. The guy's barely played. So I'm not just going to sit up here and make up some manufactured take that, Jordan Love's going to be a great quarterback. He might not. He doesn't need to be Aaron Rodgers. I do think there is a lot of people out there that feel he needs to be Aaron Rodgers and he needs to be this great quarterback. No, as long as Jordan Love can be competitive and can be competent, can be a game manager, and you give him some weapons in the future, I think he could be solid. He doesn't need to be Aaron Rodgers. I will tell you that. There is a lot of people out there that say, what's the expectation for Jordan Love? What does Jordan Love need to do as a Packer for fans to respect him? He needs to go out there, win a Super Bowl, be a 4-time NFL MVP. I don't believe that. It's an interesting spot because you've had Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers at quarterback for, whatever it's been, 20 years, right? So now you go to Jordan Love. Jordan Love, no matter what he does, I don't know if he'll ever hit the legacy of those two guys. And that's the interesting part. It's similar to a Mac Jones situation in New England. No matter what he does, he's never going to do what Tom Brady did. So Jordan Love's, it is an interesting spot where no matter what he does as a Packer, it's not going to live up to what Rodgers or Favre was able to do. Specifically Rodgers, who obviously spent the last 18 years there and obviously 4-time NFL MVP and all that stuff. But because it's most recent to Rodgers. But I just don't believe in Jordan Love, and I don't love their there's not much talent. There's not much talent on the team. There isn't. They don't have a number one receiver. You saw that impacted last year. Lazard is a good number 2, number 3. He's not a number 1. Are you relying on Christian Watson to be a number 1? Okay. He's got to show you more. So Packers, I have in last. I think their floor could get as low as 4-13. Their ceiling, I think, is 9-8. I don't think they're going to go out there, and I don't see it. I don't see them going out there and winning. I mean, look, this was a team last year with Aaron Rodgers that won 8 games. So are we going to sit here and say with Jordan Love they're going to go out there with a worse receiving core and win 12 games? And that's where I just don't see it happening. And I think they're going to go 5-12. Potentially maybe 6-11, but I think realistically 5-12. I think they're a very low floor team, very low ceiling, low floor, not a whole lot to like. I think they're entering a rebuild period here. I think if Love doesn't show you much this year, they might just straight up tear it down and blow it all up. Aaron Jones gone, blow it all up and stock up on picks and restart. It'll be interesting to see them. If they win 5 games this year, is Matt LaFleur still there? How does that all play out? Don't like the Packers. I'll tell you right now. And I don't want to act like it's because I'm a Jet fan and I'm trying to just stomp on the Packers because just to rub it in that we have Rodgers. I don't want to act like that. But I think even Packers fans would probably realize that, like a realistic, non-biased Packers fan, I think would realize that there's concerns around this team. I mean, you don't have a very good receiving core, and your quarterback, you barely have seen him. So you might be able to sit there and say, oh, I believe in him, what we've seen in the preseason and training camp. Fine. I don't watch much Packers training camp not at Packers practice every day, so I don't see a ton of Jordan Love. But what I've seen is a guy that barely played, and I don't think you can fully trust him, and there's not many weapons around him. So Packers finishing in 4th at 5-12. So overall, I have the NFC North playing out with the Lions finishing in 1st at 11-6, Vikings in 2nd at 10-7, Bears in 3rd at 8-9, and the Packers in 4th at 5-12. Lions and Vikings both make the postseason. So now in the NFC, we've got the Eagles and the Giants making the postseason in the NFC East. And in the NFC North, I've got the Lions and the Vikings. So we've got 4 postseason teams so far, 3 more to go, 2 more divisions. So stay tuned for that. And also in the AFC, I've got 4 postseason teams so far, the Jets and the Bills, and the Bengals and the Ravens. 3 more teams, 2 more divisions to go. So stay tuned for that. We'll have the AFC South tomorrow, NFC South on Monday, AFC West on Tuesday, and we'll close things out on Wednesday with the NFC West, and then Thursday will be the game next week. So the marathon continues of football. We've done 4 divisions so far. We've got 4 more to go. We're halfway through it on the division predictions, so stay tuned for that. All right, so now I move on to a little bit of baseball here. As the New York Yankees yesterday made some announcements, made some moves, adding Jason Dominguez and Austin Wells, or calling up Jason Dominguez and Austin Wells to the roster. Getting an opportunity to go out and see what they can do on September call-ups once the rosters expand here tomorrow. So today's obviously August 31st. So tomorrow, the rosters officially span. The Jets have 38 spots open on the 40-man, 38 spots in the 40-man, and the 2 spots open will be obviously filled by Dominguez and Wells. So, look, as a Yankee fan, they've won 3 straight games. They're 65-68. They're still a ways out from, the season's over. I know some people have said, 3 straight wins. It's the Tigers. They're not any good. It's been nice to see them rack up 3 straight wins. I think it's been nice to see them win at least. It was nice to see them win a series last night. Finally, for a first time in forever, they've actually won a series. Overall, they're 65-68, 18 games back of first. They've won 3 straight, and they're still 10 games out of a wild card spot. So these 3 wins don't mean a lot, but it does. At least it gives you some happiness as a Yankee fan that they won 3 games, so that they're 3 meaningless wins. But at the end of the day, I shut this thing off. But at the end of the day, it's win. You won, and that's at the end of the day all that matters. But we got the announcement yesterday that they're calling up Dominguez and Austin Wells, and obviously they already called up Peraza. They've already called up Pereira. I think Peraza and Pereira, neither of them have, in my eyes, made a big impact. I want to see more from those guys. I hope we see more from those guys. Pereira yesterday did have, went 1 for 3 with a 2 ribby, with 2 RBIs, 2 RBI singles. So I liked what I saw from, Pereira was good yesterday. Again, I haven't loved what I've seen from both guys. I thought Pereira yesterday getting that hit with 2 RBIs was good to see. Peraza, I haven't seen enough of. I mean, he went 0 for 4 yesterday. He's hitting 139. Again, Pereira, I think, has had some good at-bats where he's worked some walks. I think he's had some of those mixed in. He's also had some at-bats where he's looked outmatched. And he had a hit yesterday with 2 ribby singles. So I think it's one of those things where he's a rookie who just got called up. He's been in the MLB for a week. You're going to have good days. You're going to have bad days. You're going to have good at-bats. You're going to have bad at-bats. It's all a part of the process. It's all part of developing. But now you're calling up Dominguez. Now you're calling up Austin Wells, 2 of your top prospects. Dominguez being obviously number 1 over Spencer Jones is now up there at number 1. And Dominguez is obviously the biggest name here because a lot of Yankee fans believe, myself included, I have a belief that Dominguez could potentially be the future at center field, could potentially be one of the future pieces for this Yankee team in the outfield. I mean, you think of the potential now of a Dominguez, a Judge, Soto outfield. I know some people have brought that up. Some people thought of the Bellinger, Dominguez, Judge outfield. there's a lot of potential what the Yankees can do. Dominguez this season with 456 at-bats in the minors. He's at 265 with 15 home runs, 76 RBIs, 40 stolen bases, and an 802 OPS. And he just recently got called up to AAA. And I'll admit, I'm actually surprised he got called up. I thought the Yankees would do what the Yankees did last year to Volpe, call him up at AAA, let him play about 20 games, let him play the rest of September with AAA, and then go into spring training and then battle for and win the spot there. But again, different situations. The Yankees were in a playoff race last year. The Yankees are not in a playoff race this year. So different scenarios. He played 109 games at Somerset, Double-A, where he hit 15 home runs, hit 254 with an OPS of 781. And since getting called up in AAA, he's similar to Volpe. When Volpe got called up to AAA last year, he dominated to start. And it's similar here to Dominguez. He's gotten called up to AAA, and in 9 games at AAA, 31 at-bats, he's had 13 hits, 3 doubles, a triple, 10 RBIs. He's hitting 419, 514 on base, a 581 slugging, an OPS of 1.095. That's what he's been able to do at AAA up to this point. In 9 games, he has absolutely dominated, and he's also worked some walks too. 6 walks in 9 games at AAA and 3 stolen bases. This is a guy that came up, noticed a big moment was looming, and stepped up in a big way. And I love bringing up guys. Pereira is one of them. You see, he struggled a little bit, but the best time to bring up a guy to the major leagues is when they're hot, when they're playing their best baseball, when their confidence is high. You bring him up. He's hot. He's playing his best baseball. Look, at the end of the day, you're not going anywhere this season. He's 20 years old. He's one of your top prospects. He's one of the better guys that we've seen in this farm system in a while. He's been hyped up for about 3 years now. Call him up, give him a chance. The Yankees need outfield help for the future. You want to see what you got. Dominguez, Pereira, center field, left field, Judge and right. Potentially that's your outfield next year. If Pereira shows you enough, potentially you add another outfielder. But ideally, you see enough from Dominguez to trust him going into next season, and it opens up only 1 outfield spot opposed to 2 if Pereira can do what he can do. And again, it gives you something, too, as a Yankee fan to look out for. I mean, watching this team stinks right now, even during the wins. So seeing Pereira, Peraza, get Wells get called up, Dominguez gets called up as well. In his minor league career, he's hit 266 with a 372 on base, 431 slugging, and an OPS of 803. That's what he's done in his career in the minor leagues. Again, this season, 265, 802 OPS overall, and has hit over 400 since going up to AAA. So he'll get called up. He'll open up things tomorrow for the New York Yankees, and so will Austin Wells in Houston in the first game of a 3-game set where they'll face Verlander to open up that. They'll also face Verlander in that series as well. Now, you go to Austin Wells, and he's been able to, lefty bat, a lot to like with Wells. I mean, Dominguez, obviously, there's a lot to like with Dominguez, switch hitter, center fielder, outfielder, one of your, power, the Martian, as they call him. There's a lot to like about both these guys, but specifically Austin Wells. Because forever now, as Yankee fans, we've been asking for a lefty bat. We've been asking for a guy that can go up there with power at the at the left side and hit for power. I mean, and that's another thing, too, with this front office. How many years have we have to call for a lefty bat with power to get called up or to go out and sign a guy? I mean, we talked about Bellinger this season, and they didn't go out and get Bellinger. In the offseason, you could have went out and got somebody. The Yankees never, and recently, since Gardner retired, really, they haven't acquired any lefty bats. They don't have lefties. It's a righty-heavy lineup. They haven't had lefty power in a long time. And I know Rizzo is that, but you need more than that. And it's interesting with Wells because he's a catcher, and he's also gotten work at first. So if Rizzo is just washed and not the same, and it wasn't just the concussions, he's just not the same player, you could potentially plug Wells at first. You also might have your catcher of the future, but he's a lefty with pop. This season in 371 at-bats, he's hitting 240 with 17 home runs, 72 RBIs, 7 stolen bases, and a 775 OPS. He also got called up to AAA recently when Trevino went down and they had to call up Rortvet. He spent 33 games at AAA. He's had 32 hits and 126 at-bats, 10 doubles, 5 home runs. He's hitting 254 with a 349 on base, 801 OPS, or a 452 slugging, 801 OPS. Another guy, too, where you've seen his numbers increase since going up to AAA, from AA Somerset to AAA Scranton. And in his career, he's a .260 hitter in the minor leagues with a .370 on base, .476 slugging, and an OPS of .846. A lot to like from Wells, too. Catcher, defensively, he's not great. But from a Yankee perspective, you can take average defense and pop at the plate because the Yankees haven't had a catcher in a very long time. They've been searching for a catcher since Jorge Posada. Let's be honest here. We thought Gary Sanchez was the guy, and he turned out to be a disaster. Rortvedt stinks. Higgy isn't good. Higgy's a career backup. Trevino is good defensively, but doesn't provide anything at the plate in terms of a bat. Yankees need a catcher desperately. If Wells doesn't shift into first base, he's your catcher. His defense needs to be worked on. He's an average defender, but has a lot of pop for a catcher. He's a lefty bat that the Yankees need. Not many times do you find catchers with pop. You have that in Austin Wells. And that's something that you love to see. Again, like as I mentioned, Yankees need pop from the left side. Wells has that. They need pop from the catcher position. Wells brings that. So they kind of get a 2-in-1 fix with Austin Wells. He's another guy, too, I'm really excited about. So hopefully you see enough from these guys. I think both these guys obviously got a lot of potential. You hope that they can come up and make some impacts here during the month of September. To get the opportunity. Pereira, Peraza, you get to see Dominguez, get to see Wells, get to see four guys now. It's a big opportunity for them, and especially when it comes to a guy like Dominguez, who's one of these prize prospects that we've been talking about for a very long time, wasn't supposed to get called up until next year, now gets called up. A big-time player to look out for. So a lot to like there from the prospects getting called up for the New York Yankees. Now they'll close out a 4-game set today against the Detroit Tigers as they look for a series sweep. They got the series win yesterday, so they actually look for a series sweep today, which would be wild if the Yankees won a series or swept the series today. Now they're winning these series against the Royals and the Tigers, so that's you got to put that into account, but it doesn't matter. It's still a series win. Clark Schmidt's on the mound today for the Yankees. He's 8-8 with a 4.51 ERA, and Matt Manning's on the mound for the Tigers. He's 5-4 with a 3.93 ERA. So Yankees go for the series sweep of 4 games with Schmidt on the mound, and we'll see what they're able to muster up today. So that'll do it for an episode of the Bubbs on Sports podcast. We'll be back here tomorrow to close out the week doing my AFC South division predictions. And we'll continue that, obviously, into next week as well. A potential live stream tomorrow, too, talking Jets. So stay tuned for that. Might have that out. Might record a video, then have a live stream out after that, potentially. So stay tuned. But we'll definitely have a video up talking all things football and everything else. So, as always, hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you all back here tomorrow. And thanks for watching.